Final general session of the day. This time our little travel is taking us to China, but also right here to California. We're looking at Illustrious China from Shanghai to San Francisco. And to take us through this session, we're starting with a presentation from one of the world's foremost experts on Chinese cuisine, Fuchsia Dunlop, I have to say it properly, Fuchsia Dunlop, who's an award-winning cook and food writer specializing in Chinese cuisine. And I think if you've been at some of our conferences before, you've heard her speak, and she's just an incredibly knowledgeable person and the author of multiple books. And she's been spending two decades researching and writing about Chinese food. And she's won 4 James Beard Awards for her work and IACP Awards, Gourmand World Cookbook Awards, the Guild of Food Writers, and awards from the Yunnan government also. Fuchsia is based in London, where she consults for the popular Barshu Sichuanese restaurant. And she also travels and cooks and lectures all over the world. So it's a great honor to have Fuchsia Dunlop with us today.
Hi. So, Chinese food. Well, over the last few years, I think we've seen a dramatic shift in perceptions of Chinese cuisine and the cracking of the old Cantonese stereotype about what Chinese food is. Sichuanese restaurants are electrifying palates all over the world, and Chinese immigrants are also bringing us in the United States and Europe a taste of Hunan, Fujian, Xi'an, and the great Dongbei region, the northeast of China. Chinese food is no longer just about egg rolls and General Tso's chicken. But this is just the beginning, because China has an extraordinarily rich culinary culture that remains largely unexplored in the West. Let's have a quick look at the map. So China is more of a continent than a country, with huge geographical and culinary range. In the north, you have arid plains, grasslands, deserts, alpine forests, and cold winters. The north is really wheat country, and that's where you find lots of noodles and breads and dumplings. The south is rice country, rich agricultural land, plenty of rain, a warm climate, lakes and rivers, and right in the south, tropical and subtropical forests. And China also has a long coastline. So all this brings a staggering diversity of ingredients. And coupled with an ancient cultural preoccupation with food, you really have, I think, the world's preeminent cuisine. Or we should really say cuisines, because of its unparalleled diversity. So what kind of diversity? Well, first, there's the regional diversity. And it's not just about the so-called 4 great cuisines. It's not just about Cantonese and Sichuanese food. China has 34 provinces, municipalities, and regions, all with their own culinary specialities, and even at a more local level, you get very distinct cuisines. Let's look at just one example. Cantonese cuisine perhaps is the cuisine that we all think we know, but there's a pocket in the northeast of the Cantonese province of Guangdong, the Chaozhou region, with its own distinctive cuisine. That's a meal in Chaozhou with the cold fish served with a dip, wonderful sweet meats and soups and stews, and that's something that you really haven't probably heard of if you're not in Bangkok or Hong Kong. There's also an amazing ethnic diversity, 56 official ethnic groups, many of them with their own distinct cuisines. Social diversity, everything from street food through home cooking, rustic cooking, to the most incredibly elaborate banquet cooking. And also religious traditions. There are separate cuisines associated with Muslims in different parts of China, and also a very interesting tradition of Buddhist vegetarian cuisine. This is lunch in a Buddhist vegetarian restaurant in a temple on the outskirts of the Sichuanese capital, Chengdu. All the dishes, the spare ribs, the shark's fin, the cold meats, are all cunningly engineered out of bean products, tofu. They're all vegetarian and pretty much vegan. And last but not least, in terms of Chinese diversity, is the whole question of texture. Chinese people really appreciate the textures of food in a way that we in the West really don't. And that just opens up a whole new frontier of possible ingredients and dishes, which is really fascinating and not really explored in the West at all. Anyway, Chinese cuisines are so diverse that you can find practically anything you're looking for if you're looking for inspiration and you want to look at China. So I wanted to give you a brief Chinese angle on a few of the trends which have been taking the world by storm for the last few years. Sichuanese cooking, the spicy flavors of Sichuan. Well, it's not just Sichuan. There's also Hunan, Guizhou, Jiangxi, Yunnan, other regions with exciting spicy flavors. This is a dinner in the Hunanese capital, Changsha. A slightly different kind of spiciness from Sichuan, including lots of pickled chilies, duolajiao, chopped salted chilies, and this wonderful black bean, fermented black soybean and chili combination. Another trend, these kind of really exciting punchy flavors where you get spicy, umami, sweet, sour, salty, all combined, which seem to be very trendy at the moment. Well, China has these in spades. In Sichuan, for example, the yuxiangwei, fish fragrant flavor, an amazing combination of pickled chilies, ginger, garlic, and scallion with a sweet and sour base. So these kinds of flavors that you also find in Korean cooking and Thai cooking, and what everyone seems to love at the moment, plenty of those in Sichuan. And that's sour and hot flavor, another Sichuanese flavor, where the heat comes from chili oil and the sourness from vinegar and pickled vegetables. Fermented foods. China has an incredibly rich and diverse tradition, almost totally unexplored, of fermented foods. This is a pickle factory in the southwestern province of Yunnan, an old family business run by an old lady who I think is about 90. Sichuanese pickle stall in a market in Chengdu. And I chose this image because I wanted to highlight the Sichuanese chili and fava bean paste, which is the base seasoning for mapo tofu, twice-cooked pork, Sichuanese hot pot, all these wonderful dishes. And it's also a really good crossover ingredient. It works tremendously well in Western stews. I will make sometimes a European-type beef or venison stew and use this as a base. Gives a wonderful color and heat. And that's a pickled vegetable stall in the city of Shaoxing, which is best known for its rice wine, in the east, sort of not far from Shanghai. And all kinds of pickled vegetables, which can be used as relish, as a pickle on the side, but also as a seasoning in snacks, in stir-fries and in soups. So if you like kimchi, there's so much to explore in China, and it's very, very regional and very diverse. Burgers, hamburgers. This is the Xi'an Roujamo. Xi'an is the home of the Terracotta Army in the north of China. And this is sometimes called the Xi'an hamburger. It's a wonderful flatbread with a crisp exterior, cooked on a griddle, fluffy inside, and stuffed here with really, really slow, long cooked pork that just falls apart. Wonderful. And they also do similar ones with beef and with lamb, often with a bit of cumin. Another sort of Chinese hamburger, this is a donkey burger from Beijing. So that might not cross over very well to America, but it tastes just like pastrami. It's a cured donkey meat, here chopped up with hot green peppers and served in a delicious layered flaky pastry. Fantastic idea. Noodles, the whole ramen thing. Well, China has just countless variations on the noodle theme. This is in the southwestern province of Yunnan again. That's a breakfast I had not long ago in Dali. Rice noodles with slow-cooked pork, pickled vegetables and chili oil, served with deep-fried dough sticks and a sort of split pea porridge. Fantastic flavour. And this is also from Yunnan. This is Lu'ersi, which is a speciality of the capital of Yunnan province, Kunming. And this is noodles which are cut from a block of rice paste and cooked in a sauce, each portion in an individual pot with little bits of pork, vegetables. A very exciting noodle dish that you don't see, I think, outside China. Sichuanese freshly pressed buckwheat noodles with a beef and bamboo shoot stew. And another fantastic local snack. And this is really interesting. This is from the northern province of Shanxi, which is very little known outside China, but is famous in China for its noodles and pastas. This is a kind of pasta made from oats, and the paste is sort of rolled out with the heel of your hand to make little tongues, which are then coiled up into rolls, put like this and steamed, and you eat them with a sauce, as you would an Italian pasta. So that's just a few of the exciting possibilities of Chinese noodles, and I chose these particular ones to highlight the fact that although in North China you get incredible wheat noodles, there are also lots and lots of gluten-free options. So another kind of trend, people looking for alternatives to wheat and for gluten-free grains. China has lots of ideas for that too. Dim sum. When we think of dim sum, we think of the Cantonese tea breakfast, all those amazing dumplings. But dim sum is just the Cantonese for dian xin, the Mandarin word meaning little snacks that are eaten between meals, not for main meals. And all over the country you have regional dian xin, little snacks. This is a feast of Sichuanese xiaochi, or small eats, including lots of chuandian, Sichuanese snacks. So each person will have 15 or 20 dishes, different kinds of dumplings, buns, all kinds of things. So that's a Sichuanese take on dim sum. And this is a tea breakfast in Yangzhou, which is quite near Shanghai, and another very different. So instead of those very light, translucent sort of rice and wheat starch wrappers that you get in the Cantonese South, here you've got bready snacks and very delicious variations on the bao theme, bao or baozi. And in Yangzhou, they make the baozi, which is really a northern sort of bready snack. They make them with a southern delicacy, very dainty little baozi, filled with things like, mixed pork and chicken and bamboo shoot, or radish slivers. Fantastic selection. If you're interested in dairy-free foods, tofu. And tofu in itself, I think, is rich in possibilities. In the West, people often think of it as being a sort of sackcloth and ashes, the kind of food that you would only eat if you have to, if you're, avoiding meat. But actually in China, it's very much part of everyday life and has so many exciting culinary possibilities. Oops. And I think the dish to convert anyone to the pleasures of tofu is Sichuanese mapo tofu, pockmarked old woman's tofu. So this is white tofu, which is cooked with that chili and fava bean sauce, with fermented soybeans, and then sprinkled with Sichuan pepper. It's a knockout dish, and everyone seems to love it. But there's also smoked tofu, which has a really exciting flavour and a very satisfying texture. Great in stir-fries and salads, and it's the kind of thing that means that you don't really miss meat. And this is tofu as a seasoning. This is fermented tofu, which has a cheesy, creamy, salty umami taste. You can have it on its own as a relish with your rice. You can also use it in sauces and marinades, and it brings a richness and deliciousness that you might associate with dairy products, but it's all, just from soybean. The trend of meat-free Mondays, lots of people are trying to eat a bit less meat for reasons of health, economy and environment. Well, China offers all the solutions because the traditional Chinese diet is really largely based on vegetables and grains, with meat and fish used as a kind of flavouring principle as much as a main ingredient. You don't get a whole steak for each person in China. And the great thing about Chinese food is that you can eat less meat without missing it, because the vegetable dishes are so delicious. This is a farmhouse lunch in Zhejiang province, near Shanghai, and mostly vegetables, just a little meat. This is a truck stop cafe, also in Zhejiang province. So instead of junk food, you've got lots of wonderful vegetables, a little bit of meat, very healthy, cheap lunch. And that's a school lunch in the Sichuanese capital, Chengdu. Really healthy, little bit of meat, lots of different vegetables, grains and soup. And finally, if you're interested in the sort of avant-garde, modernist, experimental cooking, the Chinese have been doing this for centuries. Just two examples of these kind of games with texture and ideas. This is fish balls from Hangzhou. This is freshwater fish flesh, which is beaten to a very fine paste with salt and water, shaped into balls and poached. And they have a cloud-like consistency with a little bit of springiness. Incredible. And it's all traditionally done by hand. And just the kind of ideas and the game playing that you get with sort of modernist cooking. This is one of the most amazing dishes I've ever had in Hangzhou a couple of years ago. And it's made with the cheeks of 200 little fish. So 400 cheeks. So an extraordinary idea, and you can imagine the feeling of privilege when you get given something like that to eat. Even if you're interested in cheese, you can find cheese in China. This is from the northwest of Yunnan province, from Dali. This is called Rushan cheese fans. It's made by massaging cow's milk curds, stretching them and winding them around sticks, and leaving them till they're leather dry. And one of the ways of eating them is warming them gently on a grill, spreading them with rose petal jam, and eating them like a lollipop. So that's cheese Chinese style. So, of course, it's a bit of a joke because cheese is not really a very Chinese thing, but you can even find cheese in China. And I just wanted to show you that to make the point that you can find practically anything food-wise in China. So to conclude, we may have shared the old stereotype of Chinese food being cheap and junky, but there's so much more to discover. Thank you very much. So I'm very pleased now to introduce Chef Jianmin Wu from Wuxi. Now, Wuxi is in the southeast of China, again, not far from Shanghai, and it's part of the wonderful Jiangnan region, the southern Yangtze region, which has been famous for about 800 years for its elegant culture and exquisite cuisine. Wuxi itself is an ancient center of gastronomy and culture and has many wonderful dishes. And Jianmin Wu has 20 years' experience of cooking the food of this region, which is sometimes known as Huaiyang cuisine, after the old food capital of Yangzhou. He's mastered many classic local dishes, held many illustrious posts in China, and since 2013 he's been the chef owner of Wenhao restaurant at Jiangnan University. So let's welcome Jianmin Wu. 好的，今天上什么菜？
谢谢付夏女士，谢谢你，你把中国的饮食文化了解得那么彻透，啊，我有点不敢相信。谢谢。
Thanking me for knowing about Chinese food. So, 好的。
谢谢这么多食客爱好者，想了解中国的饮食，谢谢你们，
谢
谢你们晚上的
来，
谢谢。然后今天要做的菜本来是松鼠桂鱼，由于美国的没有像中国说的那种桂鱼，所以说做不了，所以改成菊花鱼了。
So he was originally planning to make what's called a squirrel fish, which is a great dish of the Jiangnan region. And it's called a squirrel fish because it's supposed to look like a squirrel. And it's a whole guiyu, a Chinese perch or mandarin fish, which is cut incredibly intricately and deep fried and then bathed in a sweet sour sauce. But the fish that he's been able to find here, it doesn't have quite the right consistency. So he's changed slightly. So instead he's going to make chrysanthemum flower fish, which will also show you a bit of the dainty knife work of the songshuyu, the squirrel fish.
我打个比喻，例如说这是桂鱼，
Yeah.
打个比喻，现在没有，我是比喻一下，好吧？例如说这是桂鱼。
So he's saying that he's just going to show you, because he hasn't got the right kind of fish, he's going to show you it, make a daogong. Yeah.
为什么用桂鱼做松鼠桂鱼呢？它因为做出来以后跟松鼠很相似。
Yeah. You say that they make it with this fish because it looks like a squirrel.
首先的操作呢，是从鱼的两侧把头去下来，把头。
So first of all, you take off the head of the fish.
OK， 比如说，看头。
Yeah.
头。
He's showing you with a bit of dough.
Yeah. 然后从这个地方，中间不是有中间那个骨头吗？然后趁着骨头把肉劈到尾巴，尾巴不能断。
Yeah. So basically, you fillet the fish without cutting off the tail.
然后反过来也一样。 尾巴不能断。
So you take off a fillet on either side of on both sides of the backbone. So you end up with two fillets attached with the tail.
然后肚子上有翅骨，肚子上面呢，它有那个骨头。然后把它骨头劈了，然后就剩两块肉连着的肉。
So then you take out any little bones around the belly of the fish. So you end up with this double fillet with a tail.
因为拿桂鱼的肉呢比较厚。 一般是拿1斤8两到2斤重的桂鱼做这个松鼠桂鱼。
Yeah, so the mandarin fish has quite thick flesh, so usually you use about 1斤2斤1斤半
okay,
so about
okay,
sort of
2斤
a fish that's about approximately a kilogram in weight, a couple of pounds in weight.
它的肉质厚了以后，打出来的花刀，它的那个鱼一丝一丝的比较长，
Yeah.
炸出来比较好看。
So basically what you do is you use this incredible knife work to cut at an angle to do what's called in Chinese hua dao, flower knife cutting. So you cut the flesh firstly into slices at an angle and then into strips, so that when you hold up the fillet, it all falls out in kind of little fingers of flesh. But unfortunately, the fish that he found here was not fresh enough or springy enough or whatever to do this.
然后就是先是斜刀片，比较均匀的斜刀片，然后是直刀片，十字直刀片。
Yeah.
OK。
So you start by cutting at an angle, a steep angle, and then with the knife perpendicular, you cut across those original cuts. So you end up with this frilly pattern. Yeah. I should just say that the region, the Huaiyang or Jiangnan region, is absolutely famous in China for its extraordinary knife work. Knife skills are one of the basic skills of a Chinese chef, and particularly Yangzhou, the city I mentioned earlier. The chefs there are legendary for their ability to, turn a fish into a squirrel or turn a block of tofu into hair-like strands.
所以说松鼠桂鱼做不了，我们就拿别的鱼的鱼肉来做今天的菊花鱼。虽然形不一样，但是口感是差不多。
So he's saying that because of the problem with the fish, he's making instead chrysanthemum fish, which looks a bit different. It's also a classic Chinese dish, but the flavour and the kogan will be the same. The mouthfeel and the sauce is the same.
菊花鱼跟松鼠桂鱼的不一样的就是，菊花鱼的鱼肉，一条整的鱼肉，然后是3刀镰刀片。
Yeah.
镰刀片。
So what you do to make can you see the chrysanthemum flowers? Are they up on the screen? So what you do is you do 镰刀片, which means linked cut slices. So you do 2 slices and you only cut through on the 3rd slice. So you end up with little frilly pieces of fish.
然后再均匀的切成丝。
Yeah, so once you've cut these slices, you then evenly cut them into silken threads, is the Chinese word.
然后放在碗里加盐，可以加柠檬，可以加芹菜。
在中国会用姜葱吗？
OK， 还有葱姜、胡椒粉，根据你自己的口味，因为它是做底味嘛。
So you start by giving a base flavour to the fish by marinating it in salt. He's used lemon and celery, and also ginger and spring onion. So according to your taste, a little bit of pepper.
包括紫苏，你喜欢什么口味，
Yeah.
它底味可以做成什么口味。
So whatever flavour to give a base flavour to the fish.
然后腌完了以后，差不多10分钟，腌10分钟，然后拿出来吸干水分，吸油纸吸水纸吸干水分。
Okay.
吸干水分以后拍上粉，生粉。
这个是什么？是
玉米粉也可以。
Okay, so then you marinate it for about 10 minutes, and then you dry off any water, and then you toss it in dry starch. So he's using cornstarch. 在中国会用土豆粉吗？还是用？
土豆粉、玉米粉都可以。
Yeah, so you can use potato starch, you can use cornstarch. In other parts of China, they use pea starch actually.
然后就是均匀的拍上去，包括每一根丝上面都连上粉。
So you have to cover it very, very evenly in the starch, so that every little thread of fish is clothed in the starch.
然后把多余的粉抖掉。
And then excess starch you want to get rid of.
然后是从肚子上面那个一边，就是丝比较短的地方，往中间卷。
Okay, so you're wanting to curve it from the area where the belly area where the threads are slightly smaller.
因为菊花的花心中间是短一点，边上长一点。
Because you want to make it like a chrysanthemum, where the middle is shorter and the outside is longer. The food of this region is very poetic. A lot of dishes have legends attached, have beautiful names like chrysanthemum for a fish.
OK。 然后油温差不多在140到150度左右
100到150。
，140到150之间就 OK 了。
So you heat the oil to about 140, 150. I presume he's talking about Celsius, centigrade. So 这个是15成吗？还是中国？
差不多是7成，
7成。
最起码要7成。
OK。
它因为油温要高一点，一下子让它炸出来，它就开了。油温低了以后，它就不会像菊花一样张开。
Okay, so the oil has to be hot enough so that as soon as you put it in, it flowers like a chrysanthemum. You see, it just expands in the oil.
对，然后拎着一下，让它就是彻底的张开。
So just dip it in and out like this.
然后
这个是定性。
OK， 差不多。
1次油炸还是2次油炸？
先炸的让它看气泡，气泡越来越少，说明它的水分越来越少。
OK。
然后
第2次。
然后对，为什么要炸第2次？有的甚至是第3次，让它水分彻底的外焦里面嫩的，
Okay.
外面脆脆的。
So he's basically trying to fry it until the water is no longer evaporating, because what you want to end up with a kogan, a mouthfeel, which is the outside is really crisp and the inside is still tender.
一般的像这个鱼丝比较细，水分容易出来，所以炸2遍就够了。
Yeah.
2遍。
什么？一般来说？
鱼丝它比较细嘛，它水分容易出来，所以说炸2遍就 OK 了。
Yeah， 不要太，炸2遍什么？
炸2遍就可以了，就达到那种外脆里嫩的效果了。
So you don't the fish threads are very thin, so you don't want to overcook them. You want them to be tender inside.
OK。这个炸好了，一般我就先放这里啊，先放这里。OK， 我再炸2个，1个、2个。这个是提前炸好的那个。
So these are some that he'd sort of half deep fried in advance.
然后拿一个锅，上面放点油。
So now he's making the sauce. So a little oil in the wok or the pan. He's using a small pan because it's not a very large volume of sauce.
把蒜炸香。
So then you want to start by frying the garlic, chopped garlic, 炸香, stir frying until it's fragrant.
根据你个人口味，可以多放，可以少放。
And you can add more or less garlic according to your own taste.
因为找不到肉勺，只能拿这个。OK， 这个也好了。OK。
Okay, 好的。So these ones are done as well.
OK， 我也放过来了。
So that if you read a Chinese recipe, particularly from this region, the directions are incredibly precise, like about the exact balance of flavors in a sauce, the quality of the texture, and there are all these lovely little phrases expressing the sort of character of the dish, what it's like, the whole experience, taste, texture, aroma, color. In China, they say it's important when cooking to consider 色香味形, which means color, fragrance, flavor, and form. And sometimes in this region, very elegant, they add the vessels because the presentation, part of the whole experience
OK，
of
蒜已
cooking.
经可以了，香味已经出来。
So the garlic is already
加
fragrant.
番茄酱。
So he's adding some tomato
对
sauce.
它根据你做的这个菊花多少，加了多少。
So just add as much as you need to dress however many little frilly chrysanthemums of fish you have. 这个也要炸香。
对，它这个番茄酱一定要用油脂炒一下，让它番茄素充分的让人体。
So again, this should be fried, and you're bringing out the fragrance and kind of ripening the flavor.
它的颜色更艳。
Yeah, and also that the color of the sauce will become brighter when you fry it.
OK。加少许水。
And he's adding a little water.
Yeah。OK。然后糖醋的比例，因为是糖醋味道，我们就拿这个小汤匙啊， 比如说盐，
So it's a sweet
Yeah.
sour sauce. This first he's putting in a little salt,
盐，然后糖，
sugar,
1、2、3、4、5 ，OK。
5 little spoons
Yeah.
of sugar. Sweet and sour always has a base of salt to
熬好了
bring
以
out
后
the，flavour. 这个是什么？
陈醋，
陈醋. And this is 是真酱醋也可以用。
yeah.
So this is a sort of brown rice vinegar, jinjiang vinegar, which you can buy in Chinese supermarkets here. Has a lovely mellow flavour, a little bit like Italian balsamic in character, although it's
为什么放镇江醋呢？顺着这个锅边，让它香气出来。陈醋它这个香气更醇久，你吃下去以后，它慢慢的回味出来，很香，
yeah.
哎，很好吃。
所以你最后放这个。Yeah.
不，这个是放点陈醋，顺着锅边让它香味出来。
Okay, so you put the vinegar into the pan, and then you want to bring out its fragrance so that it has this lovely lingering after aroma and taste.
糖加好了，然后我们是先放到这个醋，这个应该要加白醋，到最后加白醋。
Okay.
哎，
He's saying he's going to add the sugar, and then finally you add the clear rice vinegar. 不会影响它的颜色，是这个意思，用那个白醋。
白醋不会，一般就是在国内我们有叫大红之醋，它的是颜色是红的，它的颜色更艳。
好的，
因为这里没有，所以说我们只能。
So he's using the white, the clear vinegar with the sugar. He's saying that back home they would use a sort of rose vinegar, which is used in this part of China, which is sometimes sold as red vinegar, which gives an even lovelier colour to the dish.
然后生粉，
And this is adding to his sauce, his sweet sour sauce,
Yeah.
a bit of starch and water, which will thicken it and make it cling to the fish.
看它会 ，OK，
Yeah. So
厚度
just,
厚度够，
um,
最后，看看它醋味够不够，可以淋点醋，
Yeah.
最后淋上就是中国的特有的特色
So you're saying that finally you can just adjust the vinegar.
啊，要淋明油，
什么？
明油就是
啊
热
明油
的
，yeah.
油，让它这更光亮。
没有勺子吗？
嗯，
So you're saying, yeah, so you
Okay,
can
okay,
adjust the
okay.
vinegar at the end just to get that sweet-sour balance right.
Yeah.
And then finally he's doing something which they particularly do in this region, which is add what they call mingyou, gleaming oil. So you add a little bit of hot oil at the end of making a sauce, which gives a kind of luster to the sauce. So this is something you don't really find in home cooking so much as in restaurant cooking, but it sort of adds to the beauty of the dish.
这样子就好了
Okay,
了。
so that's ready.
OK，然后淋在鱼上就可以了。OK。一般的淋这个酱汁呢，基本上要淋均匀一点，在中间一点。OK，
不要太多。
不要太多，多了就不那个。
So then you add a little bit of sauce on the center of each piece of fish, and you don't want to totally drown them. And you can see the way he's laid out the plate, that in this region, again, you get the most incredibly elaborate picture platters of cut foods, showing off the knife work and the artistry of cooking.
啊，这个因为是铲子一样，不是
什么？
这个不是勺子，所以说，
嗯，
搅不开，感觉。OK 了。
So with the squirrel fish, you actually have the whole fish kind of curved up with all these frills, bathed in the red sweet and sour sauce.
这个边上淋不上去无所谓，因为这个菊花鱼它这个已经腌过了，它有底味，所以说它这个味道够了。
Yeah.
Okay.
So you don't need that much sauce because remember he put in the flavour right at the beginning, the sort of base flavour of the fish. So you don't need too much sauce. Okay.
所以说就 OK 了。
好的. Okay. So this chrysanthemum fish.
谢谢。
好的.
中国饮食文化非常的长久，非常的有内涵，所以说希望大家有机会去中国， 去中国的江南，去我们的家乡，还有很多你不了解的土菜啊。
Yeah, he's just saying that China has a very specialist food culture and lots of sort of expertise, and urging you all to go to China and go to the Jiangnan region to explore the local dishes, which are very rich and wonderful.
欢迎大家到中国做客，到无锡做客。
Yeah,
谢
so
谢。
come to Wuxi and eat the Wuxi food.
Thank you.
Thanks very much. Thank you very much. Okay, now we have Martin Yan, who I don't think requires much introduction for an American audience. He's originally from Guangzhou in the Cantonese south of China, a veteran chef, teacher and broadcaster, and host of incredibly more than 3,000 cooking shows. He's got many projects on the go, including most recently his new My China restaurant group in San Francisco. Martin, over to you. Let's welcome Martin Yan.
Anyway, I'm here to hold the finale. You like it or not? I'm going to show you of a couple of things. All the places that you show to everybody, I have been there and I love it. And all the food and all the things, because I did a whole show on the unmentionable cuisine. And also Martin Yan's unknown, like parts unknown of China. But anyway, today I'm going to show you one of the most popular Chinese dim sum. We mentioned about dim sum. It's just like 小吃, little eat. And it's very famous in Shanghai. It's called Shanghai 小笼包. It is a Shanghai juicy dumpling. And Chef Li and I would work together, and then we're going to steam it, okay? We're going to steam them, stack them all up, and then while we're steaming the dumpling, we're going to show you how to do a new version, because the title is From Shanghai to San Francisco. We show you how we do interpret some of the dishes that are very indigenous, very popular, very traditional in many parts of China, okay? So first, Mr. Li is going to show us. This is flour, and this is a flour dough. You rise it, and this is actually have a tiny, tiny bit of yeast. Or you let it rise naturally by itself, like a special yeast dough. Then this is the rolling pin. Okay? And this is, all you need is this simple tools, like this. Simple tools. Okay? Then this, first, you can use any filling. You can use pork, you can use lamb, you can use beef, you can use all kinds of things. You can use chicken, you can use vegetarian. And this is pork. Okay? First, you marinate, you use your knife to chop up the pork. Chinese chefs love to use knife to chop up ground meat, rather than use a machine to ground it. They literally chop it. Why? Because every single piece is different size and different shape. So when you bite into it, it's texture contrast. That's why you're talking about texture contrast, form and texture. Chinese pay a lot of attention to texture. That's the reason why a lot of time, simple dish, they'll add ginkgo nut, they'll add water chestnut, they add bamboo shoot, they add a lot of these to enhance the color and the texture contrast. So, now, chef, look at this. First, you let the dough rise and rest, okay? And then you shake this into a cylinder. Shape them in a cylinder. And we'll talk about dim sum. This is very common in Shanghai, but also in a lot of Cantonese restaurants also starts doing the xiaolongbao because it's so popular. They actually, a restaurant called Ding Tai Feng, they serve nothing but xiaolongbao. Very, very famous. Now you know that you use your finger to snap it, every single one exactly the same size. Okay? That's the experience. And then you use this low rolling pin. You see how it does it? You press it and then you roll it. As you roll it, you turn this. You turn. Now, every single one is exactly this round. Can you see that? Exactly this round. Okay? Perfectly round. Not only perfectly round, the edge is thinner than the center because when we roll, we only roll the edge. Okay? Very, very thin. What makes xiaolongbao famous is, and it tastes good, is the dough has to be very, very thin. Okay? It's almost translucent. Press. You see how it is? You push it, you pull it, and pull it, and you put it, and put it. And then, look at this. Nice and round like this. Perfectly round. Okay? Now let me show you one more time. This is how you normally do it. You see, this, you press this, okay? Always put some flour here. And then you press this. Press this. And then when you roll, look at the movement. You use this. 1, 2. You see how I move? 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. And then when this is done, it's all nice and round, shaped like this. Exactly nice and perfectly round. Okay? So, in the beginning, you use this. And then towards the end, you use the edge to do it. This should be, also have gelatin. That's what it make it juicy. You use the rich broth, cook it, and gelatinize it. So you use the gelatin to mix with the meat. So when you eat it, when you steam them, they melt it. And then when you eat it, your mouthful of juicy dumpling. That's what juicy dumpling is all about, okay? So, now look at this. This is special too. This is like a Chinese bamboo spatula. Just the right size. You just put approximately 1 heaping teaspoon. 1 heaping teaspoon right there. And then you pleat. A good chef can have 14, 16 pleats. Look at that. You just keep pleating. Pleat, 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 smell. Now, look at this. This is how many pleats? Take a look at this. Look at the pleat. See? You snap the very end. You have beautiful pleats. After that, you put it in a steamer like this. A lot of times they put it right on top of the steamer. But here, to make it easier. You know why we like to do this at NY China? Because when something breaks, the juice is right here. So you can eat and drink the juice. Okay? But most of them in China, they don't do that. Because it's too much work. Look at this. Fill it up. And then when you do it, you pull it. You pull it. Okay? Pull it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You pull it and you snap it. Pull it and you snap it. Pull, snap, 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 snap. And then when it's done, it is nice and beautifully round like this. You see that? Now, this takes some practice. Okay? You have to have, a good chef can do about 14 to 18 pleats. Okay? In Shanghai, you go to Shanghai and go to dumpling place, then you have a whole bunch of people sit there and just do nothing all day long, 360 days a year, just do it. So they are very, very fast. 农场小笼包 in Shanghai, they do that really, really fast. You just sit there and do it all day long. Now, why chef is doing this? We're going to take this over here. We can steam this, okay? We're going to put it over here and steam. Now, this is a bamboo steamer. The great thing about a bamboo steamer is because the steam go up and down. Now, look at this. Excessive steam escape. So you have allowed enough steam, but no condensation. No excess condensation. That's why all the dumpling is steamed in a bamboo steamer, not in a stainless steel steamer. Because it's too much condensation, okay? Okay, why chef is doing this? Let's and then I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you a simple dish. I would love to invite you to come by NY China. We do a lot of these. Okay, I'm going to show you how simple it is to do one of your most popular dish. But normally, when you go to Sichuan, when you do Kung Pao chicken, you know what happened? The chicken has bones this big, and you have to use a magnifying glass to look for it under microscope to separate the chili and the chicken. Particularly 辣子鸡丁, they are probably 80% chili and 20% bone skin in chicken. So what we do is, being in America, we use chicken breast. We cut the chicken breast into big chunks, okay? You steam this for about only 8 to 10 minutes. You don't want to steam it too long, okay? All of these doesn't take too long to steam because it's so thin. The wrapper is so small, so thin, okay? First, I'm going to show you, we're going to cut up a few things. In China, like for sure, like you said, it is appearance, color. It is fragrance. It's aroma, flavor, and then form. Form also refer to the look and the texture, okay? I'm going to put this over here, and I'm going to cut this up. And I cut it up, and I put it right here. And I cut it up. And this way I can do all kind of cut. I can cut into diamond cut like this, stack them all up, and I cut 1, 2, 3, 4. So every single cut is a diamond cut, okay? Diamond cut. So it looks nicer with the diamond cut. Then I have color contrast. I can also use the same knife to do diamond cut, okay? Then of course, we should also have color contrast. The Chinese pay a lot of attention to the yin and the yang, which is contrast of color, contrast, texture, and contrast of flavor. And I can even make it really small. I cut it like this, okay? I cut it 1. And I cut it again. Okay? And this way, I can julienne this. This way, I can use this in my dish. Okay? This, I would use very thin slice, very thin shreds. Okay? All of this very, very thin slices like this. All of these. Then I will put it in my dish as a garnish on the side. Okay? So, nothing is wasted. And then this one, I cut it into dice. Also at an angle. So, diamond cut. So you have color contrast. And onion is widely used. Garlic, ginger, and onions widely used. So I also cut it about the same size. In order to cook it properly, I cut it about the same size. Put it all together. Okay? Like this. And then onion, I can also cut it like this. Now look at this. 1, 2, and 3. When I cut the onion, I want to have exactly the same size. So I start cutting here because the outer ring is much bigger than the center ring. So I cut, I stop right here. And I cut, I stop right here. And I cut, I stop right here. And I cut, I stop. So every single one is exactly the same size. Okay? Now, I will also use this knife. Now, I'm quite sure when you travel around China, knife skill is one of the most important technique and most important skill that the chef require. If you don't have good knife skill, you can never get a good job in any Chinese restaurant in China. Okay? So, we have all of these all done. We also have some fresh jalapeno. I'll put it right over here. And then I want to show you quickly First, you heat it up. And then, you get ready the ingredient, okay? I have this special chili. And this chili, normally you cannot find it in the market. It was special. Please try one. Very, very special. I use dry chili, and I soak it. I soak it, and I season it with salt and pepper. And then I fried it. So it's crispy. And it's spicy. It is very, very different. Very few restaurants use this. They normally just use a dry chili, the whole dry chili. Okay? So, while we're steaming this, normally when you do the big steamer, steam a lot of them, 8 to 10 minutes in a restaurant commercial steamer. Because it's, in China, they're about 150 to 250,000 BTU. It's like a blowtorch. If you ever come to NY China, you can see that you sit down and the chef, the cooking, and the frame come up to be this high. That's the reason why I always joke with people. If you look at the chef from Wuxi, no real eyebrow. It's not real. Gone. And look at most of the chef, no hair here. You notice that? Because it's so hot. A lot of time they move things around, it's all gone. You heat this up. Okay? And I have a tiny bit of garlic. Spoon. Bigger size spoon. Always use garlic. Chinese do not like to use garlic, which is already bought and already chopped up in a jar. Always fresh garlic. This particular dish, I use 2 teaspoons of garlic. I love garlic, right? People always say, oh, you know, the Korean, Italian eat a lot of garlic. Not true. Korean eat a lot more. You think the Korean eat a lot of garlic? Not true. You go to northern China, they chew garlic, raw garlic as a snack. Okay? Now, I'm going to show you all the vegetables are already cut up, and I'm going to use chicken breast. Chicken breast. Now, this is a debate. A lot of the time, people say, I don't want skin. Do me a favor, remove the skin. But no, skin is very flavorful. How many of you prefer me to use skin? How many of you forget about the skin? Good. You are truly gourmets, professional. I always tell people, when you talk about I use this, I transfer this. Okay? Now this one, I remove the skin. I don't want the skin. So what I do is, I hold onto this and I just move. And the whole skin comes out in no time. And then I cut this up. This one has no skin. Okay, no skin. Also, I can butterfly the chicken like this. And I can also use the same knife. This is a skew. You tenderize. And I cut, and I cut, and I stack them up. 1, 2, 3, 4. And now, I can quickly marinate this. I'm a tiny bit of soy sauce, tiny bit of sesame seed oil, and pepper. And I marinate this. I'm going to put a tiny bit of pepper here, okay? Pepper, a tiny bit of pepper here. Not only that, I also use cornstarch. Where's the cornstarch? Why Chinese chef use cornstarch? Serve 3 purposes. 1, it seal in the juice. Secondly, it gives that nice smooth texture because cornstarch gelatinized over high heat with oil. They gelatin, it become a gelatin. And not only that, it gives that nice smooth texture because when you bind to something coated with gelatin, it is much, much nicer. Okay? Now, always use highest temperature possible. High temperature, short time. Okay? Always remember. Heat it up, very hot. Another thing, you want to avoid the garlic to be burned. You cook this first. Okay? You cook this first. One of the mistakes that most people make is, they say, how come when I cook, how come it doesn't sear? Because the temperature is not high enough. Secondly, you put too much protein. So they stack on one another. They're not being seared simultaneously. And also when you put it in, you let it sear the meat before you turn them around. Okay? You sear the meat and turn before you turn it around. I sear for about 20 seconds. Now look at it. Look at the color, okay? I sear. And then I turn it. Look at this. Now, I put the garlic in. This way, it does not burn the garlic as much. And I still have the flavor because it's still very high. I use the high temperature. I still use high temperature. At all time when you do stir-fry dishes, high temperature, short time. So outside, the protein is caramelized and is flavorful and it sears, and the inside is moist, juicy, and tender. Okay? So always, always, you see, I do not turn it right away when I turn it over. I just allow it to be nice and golden brown now. See, guys, can you see the nice and golden brown? And then when this is done, now this is how the Chinese does it. Chinese chef never, when you're cooking large portion, particularly your hotel, restaurant, and catering business, or school feeding, never cook the meat and the vegetable together at the same time. You have no control. You lost control. So what I do is, I sear until nice and golden brown like this. Okay? And then I cook the vegetable. So when the vegetable is almost done, I throw it back in so everything is cooked properly and nothing is undercooked or nothing is overcooked. That's why in Chinese cooking, they always say, 控制火候, temperature control. Very important. Because the wok is 150 to 250,000 BTU, okay? Now, this is done. I put it in here. By doing the meat first, I also serve another purpose when I do the meat first. The reason is, when I put the vegetable in and a tiny bit of water, I'm actually cleaning the wok and using the dripping and flavor my vegetable, okay? And that's how we do it. No more oil, okay? 俾少水嚟，少水。When you put a tiny bit of water, never put too much. Just enough to steam it a little bit. You don't want to boil it, so just enough liquid. Never overcook your vegetable. That's why you go to a Chinese restaurant, the vegetable is properly cooked, never overcooked. And then you put a tiny bit of onion, because I don't want to overcook the onion either, because if I overcook the onion, it will lose the texture, because onion is so sweet. Okay? And then when this is almost ready, I put this back. Now, this dish is so fast. Most of these, once you cut everything up, each dish takes less than 5 minutes to cook. Okay? I put this back. Okay? And then I put the sauce. I put the sauce. I put the chili sauce. This is chili sauce. Put chili sauce. High temperature and short time. Now this is my version of Kung Pao because a lot of meat compared to vegetable and compared to chili. Okay? And then I'll put a tiny bit of special sauce right here. Okay, now open it up and check it out. This is going to be good. And then, finally, chili. This is special chili that we make in our restaurant. You don't find it in the market. There's nothing like this in the market. You soak the chili. Finally, the traditional Kung Pao chicken use peanut. But a lot of people are allergic to peanuts, so you use other nut. When this is done, the whole dish is done. Very simple, very easy. Don't overdo it with too much sauce. Okay? When it's done, I put it over here. And I transfer these in this bowl. And then I sprinkle some extra chili right on top, because this is so good. I encourage you, some of you, try this. This is so good. And then, you remember this. I put this right on the very top. And then, I sprinkle a tiny bit onion. And that's all we do. Very, very simple dish. And this is done. And I cut up a tiny, tiny bit of green onion. And sprinkle around on top. And the dish is very simple. Everybody can do it in the restaurant, a hotel, and this is the final dish. Okay? Now, while we're serving this, take a look at this. This is done. Beautiful. We are serving this right over here. If anybody are interested in that, you're more than welcome to come and we'll serve you. And you can even taste this. But in the meantime, I would like to take this opportunity. Yeah, take a picture. Anybody have any question? No time for questions, so forget it.
Everyone got so hungry watching you, they all want to go out to dinner now.
She's the expert, and she speaks better Mandarin than me. And I congratulate you, because I actually do shows in China in Mandarin and Cantonese. One of the shows that I did is 美食真功夫 reached about 185 million people. But sometimes they would ask me, Martin, what are you saying? They couldn't understand a Chinese speaking Chinese. They have a title recently in a newspaper. San Francisco Chinese is coming to China. Teach the Chinese how to cook Chinese food. It's amazing. I was born in China. I grew up in China. I was educated. I learned my trade in Hong Kong and China. Anyway, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank Chef Lee, Koi Power. And then, of course, I'm from NY China, Martin Yan's China. I welcome you to come and join us. It's a wonderful place, and it's fascinating. I invite you to come too.
Thank you, Martin. Thank you, Fuchsia. Thank you, Jianmin. Thank you all for staying here and participating in this great session. Now have a great dinner and see you back here tomorrow at 7:30 for breakfast in the back of the room and another day of wonderful sessions. Enjoy your evening.
Hi, I'm Chef Jake Brock, Manager of Culinary Learning and Development at Rich Products. Today I'm going to be showing you how to make 2 Asian-inspired beverages using Rich's creme brulee mix, a beautiful blend of flavors of cream, milk, sugar, and coconut oil. We're going to be making peach bubble tea and a chai tea frappe. So let's get started. The first one we're going to do is a chai tea frappe. To do this, we're going to use vanilla, cloves, cardamom seeds, honey, star anise, cinnamon stick, along with our black tea. We're going to start by brewing our black tea, nice strong black tea, in a pot. We're going to add our ingredients, our vanilla, whole cloves, cardamom seeds, our cinnamon stick, star anise, and honey. We're going to steep this for about 15 minutes. After our 15 minutes of steeping, we're going to move to the blender and we're going to add our tea. We're going to add ice. And our creme brulee mix. And we're going to blend this to a frothy finish. We'll serve this in a glass. Fill up our glass, and then we'll spoon some of the foam right on top. So we grate a little bit of cinnamon on top, and we have a great beverage with all the flavors of cream, milk, and coconut oil that are in the creme brulee mix. The second beverage we're going to make today is a peach-flavored bubble tea. To do this, we start with strong tea. Peach flavor, creme brulee mix, and our bubbles. We just stir this together. And we have a beautiful peach-flavored bubble tea. Enjoy this one too.